Look, I've always viewed service and public service as a team effort, and for the last 8 years, I've been fortunate to have a world-class team who work tirelessly and incredibly professionally on behalf of the people of the city of Chicago. I'm also proud to note that our administration has more women in senior positions than any other administration in Chicago history. I want to also recognize that they weren't, if the aldermen that are here, could they please rise, because they've also been part of an important team that are here. And they helped all of us as partners in helping bring the city back from the brink. I want to thank the members of the City Club. By being part of this organization, by coming to these lunches, to hearing from members of my administration and other civic leaders, you are demonstrating your commitment to the city of Chicago and your love for the city. A city can only succeed if its people are informed, engaged, and active in shaping its future. And Chicago is a better and stronger city because of all of your participation in the life of the city. And finally, while I'm saying some thank yous, I'd be remiss if I did not thank my family. I am very fortunate to have two grandparents who emigrated to this country and specifically to this city because they believed in the promise of Chicago. My grandfather Herman and grandmother Sophie met in Chicago at a dance in Douglas Park in Alderman Scott's ward. And I never let him forget that he is keeping that ward and keeping that park. Very important to our family. I'm also very fortunate to have two parents that are still alive and at least able to see one of their sons accomplish something, unlike the other two losers in the family. Or as I used to say to my mother, you love Zeke more than you love me. She said, it's not true. I hate you all three equally. Explains a lot about the family after that. I'm also incredibly fortunate to have a wonderful wife and a partner who's put up with my mishigas. You'll all learn Yiddish by the end of this. While raising three incredible children. And she's done incredible work, not just for our children, but for the children of the city of Chicago. Well, I will note, gets the joy of tonight of being able to go to the Chicago Symphony. So she'll have a great evening. Now, I want to make one brief point before Craig and I have our conversation, or as Henry Kissinger used to say, does anybody have any questions for my answers? And we can go from there. He was serious, I'm joking, okay? I don't want to talk about accounting of the last 8 years. I do not want to give a detailed assessment of Chicago's fiscal or economic picture and what's happened. I know you know. I have a theory of the case. I know you find it shocking, but I'll make that presentation later. But I do want to take a step back and make one broader, singular point. When I walked in the door, yes, Chicago had a fiscal crisis. We had an economic crisis. We had an employment crisis. We had an educational crisis and a mounting crisis around our investments in infrastructure, transportation, our pensions, and neighborhood services. But beyond that, the cumulative effect of all those crises added up to a crisis of confidence. There was a prevailing and pervading sense that somehow the city of Chicago, that our best days were behind us, that the ingenuity and the ability to tackle big challenges that had defined this city for generations was part of our past and no longer part of our future. The Chicago Tribune wrote that the crisis, quote, had threatened to sabotage much of the city's future. The schooling of our children, the size of our police force, the willingness of businesses to stay here and grow jobs. I have to be honest, back in the first campaign in 2011, a common refrain I heard at health stops, grocery stores, places of worship: why would you even want this job? In fact, some people in this room said that to me. Why would you want to leave President Obama's side to do this? There was a belief that the tough choices had been delayed and deferred and denied for so long that the cost of each of the challenges across the waterfront had mounted, and that each had created their own weight on the city. The result was a cascading effect that the cost of solving each challenge became greater and greater, and they were beginning to sap the strength of the city. As the Sun-Times noted in their endorsement of my first campaign, Chicago, the crossroads of the nation, is at a crossroads of its own. They said that the city can work along the margins to fix problems. An incremental approach sure to doom the city to second-tier status in a decade or two, or can take bold and decisive action of the kind Chicago is known for and continue as a thriving player in the new global economy. They said that the new mayor would need to lead the charge into the city's future. Chicago's always been a great city with big dreams. We believed in what the people of Chicago could do together if we could muster the courage to give them that chance. Of all the things that have changed for the better over the last 8 years, to me, that is one of the most important. Today, we still have debates on how best to accomplish certain things, but there is no longer any doubt that Chicago can rise to the occasion and accomplish big things again. We got our game back. We got the spring in our step. We don't doubt ourselves anymore, and more importantly, we don't doubt the kids of the city of Chicago to set records. We don't doubt that they are doing great things, setting national academic standards at Chicago Public Schools, and we're so fortunate to have Dr. Jackson leading that effort. We don't doubt any longer that our city colleges can be a real ticket to the middle class and a promising career, and we're so fortunate to have Juan Zagato leading that effort. We raised the bar for success, and our children across Chicago exceeded our expectations. Now, I promised I was not going to go through our record, but as a father of 3 children with a lot of nachas in their accomplishments, that's the second Yiddish, I hope you will forgive me for bragging about Chicago's children. In addition, it's my way of sneaking the goods through customs. Record high graduation rates for 7 consecutive years, growing at 3 times the national rate, outpacing 98% of other children across the city, across the country in reading and math gains, and record college acceptance and attendance. And that, to me, is a true measure of progress. No one doubts our city, and more importantly, no one doubts our children's ability to do big things and take care of business anymore. They come to expect it. And while we can see things like new airport terminals, libraries, Riverwalk, more plainly than we can see the impact of a universal full-day pre-K, kindergarten, full day of school, free community college, or the life-altering impact of a mentor. Those are the things, in my view, that will stand the test of time. They will be the most lasting and most impactful in the life of our children and the greatness of our city. So let me be clear, our work is not done. There's no finish line in the race of progress. But the question is, are we better prepared as a city to meet the future than we were 8 years ago? Are we in a stronger position as a city to make the most of the decades ahead than we were 8 years ago? And I believe, because of the hard work of all Chicagoans across this city, day in and day out for 8 years, the answer is yes. We stopped deferring, we stopped denying the tough choices. As I said before, denial is not a long-term strategy. It's a river in Egypt. I knew you guys would get that. Defer, it said with a Chicago accent. Denial. Deferring difficult decisions across the board. All right, it wasn't that funny. Now get it over it. Around our pensions, around our budget, around our educational goals, was impacting the psyche of the city. It was dragging down our collective capacity to meet our challenges. And that is no longer the case. In my first budget, back when my hair was a tad darker, I said we can't kick the can down the road anymore because we've run out of road. If we can summon the political courage to address our challenges through new thinking and tough choices, I'm convinced we can build a strong future for Chicago's families. Since that time, as you know, we made very tough choices. We stopped kicking the can down the road. We took a different road. And one of the best things of this job is I get to go all over this city. I have had my Walmart walk-ins, my Target town halls, my Mariano meetings, my Jewel Jab Fest. I've talked to folks riding the L, coffee shops, and at different places of worship. Here's a little secret. Chicagoans are not shy sharing with you their opinion. I'm in awe of the people of this city, the sense of ownership and responsibility they have in their block, the sense of pride they feel for their neighborhood, the love they have for this city, and the confidence they have for our future. As I said in my last budget address, Chicago now has the confidence to shape our future and not be shaped by it. 8 years ago, baseball fans weren't the only ones asking, will Chicago get out of its own way and find a way to win? Today, those demons are gone. Chicago is a strong, proud city with big shoulders, big dreams, big heart, and the renewed capacity and confidence to make them our reality. Thank you.